my goodness, you guys know how much I hate these kinds of videos. I mean, I love them, but I hate prepping for them because as an indecisive person, I'm ranking my children and I start to overthink it. So as a request, please, please don't say, what about this palette? How is that palette better than that palette? I'm stressed, okay? This is the kind of thing where I just need to lay it down, put them in their places, and then not to think too hard about it. So for today's rankings, I'm going to be ranking every single eyeshadow palette I tried in 2025. Now, it is no secret, eyeshadow palettes were a less popular category of makeup this year, but it doesn't even matter. Eyeshadow palettes are still one of the most fun parts of makeup, if you ask me. I managed to still try 47 despite them being a less popular category, and I am very picky. So I wanted to share with you which palettes I thought were the worst, ranking all the way up to the best, what I keep in consideration when it comes to these rankings. First of all, quality is very important. Second of all, color story, it matters to me. If you have a different color preference than me, then your rankings would be different, but this is my rankings, so I do take into consideration if I like the color story or not. And then, of course, how often I'm actually using it, because there's some palettes where I maybe didn't love the color story as much, or maybe the quality isn't the best in the world, but I ended up using it a ton. The proof was in the pudding there. So that is also something I take into consideration when it comes to these rankings. And I mean, I feel like eyeshadow palettes is a difficult category to mess up nowadays. These labs have got really good powder shadow formulas, so a lot of this is just my opinion. Well, that's the whole point of reviews, right? Opinions. But anyways, I'm just jibber jabbering because we are starting off with the worst today, and I always feel bad. Like, I really feel like I'm hurting someone's feelings, particularly this palette. But actually, no, this one was really bad. They charged me way too much for this. So let's go ahead and get started with number 47, the worst eyeshadow palette I tried in 2025. And that is going to be from Dior.
Ooh la la.
Okay, so this one I don't feel so bad dogging on, because you know I spent too much money on this. This is the Pink Mania Dior Show eyeshadow palette, and I made a pact with myself that I was done buying limited edition Dior eyeshadow quints. I like the ones from their permanent range, but I'm always intrigued to buy the limited edition ones because they're so beautiful with their embossments, and I'm always disappointed. The quality is never that good. And so this year, one time, I said, let me give them a chance because this looks like such a fun, pretty, light, pastel-y palette. And here we are. Learned my lesson. 47. The worst of the worst. Like, I am of a lighter complexion, and this barely showed up on me for how expensive Dior shadows are. I just can't express how horrible this is. Only like this matte shade shows up on me, but I feel like the color story as well isn't as cohesive, which I guess I shouldn't have bought it, but it looked more cohesive to me online when I saw the looks and I saw the models wearing it. But once it all got on my eye, all of these shimmers, they all looked the same on my eye. You couldn't tell a difference. For the price point of Dior, I consider that extremely unacceptable. So this Pink Mania Quint, awful. The worst palette I tried this year. So let's keep it going on to 46. And from this point on, I can make all of these palettes work. I've gotten good looks with them. Like, that's the only terrible one that I want to stomp on the ground. But number 46, I don't like the color story. I don't like the quality of this, unfortunately. This is from Hung Van Gogh Beauty, and it's the Rebellious Red and Pink. And I just really struggled with this palette. I find that there's inconsistencies in these palettes because he did come out with so many different color stories of the eyeshadow palettes, which I thought was so fun. Like, bring eyeshadow palettes back, yes. But in this particular color story, I find that a lot of the shades look very similar on my eyes. There's not enough depth, if you ask me, so there's just some redundant shades here, and the quality here is not as creamy as some of the other shades. So I didn't love this one. It's not that I couldn't get a pretty look with it, but when I was looking at the lineup of all of the beautiful palettes that I have, this one was pretty darn uninspiring to me. Didn't really have good color story, in my opinion. Didn't really have good quality. Didn't want to reach for it. And with those being the criteria for my rankings, that is why this fell at 46. Now moving on to number 45. It's funny because when I've worn this palette, I've gotten asked like, what is on your eyes? So we can get a pretty look with it, but just functionally and the quality and with the price point that one would be spending money on this, I can't in good faith recommend it. It must be ranked low. And that is from the holiday collection from NARS. This is the Solaris eyeshadow palette, and it is very, very light, very pastel-y, so of course it's not going to work for the majority of skin tones. Like I said, like this blue's kind of really pretty on the eye. These two as a look are really, really pretty, but it's just not there. The quality is just not there. It does take a little bit of working with to get the desired look that I want, and I do take into consideration the value, the price point, that kind of situation, and this just isn't there for NARS. I know they can do a lot better, so even though the colors are really pretty, I just can't get behind this as a recommendation because it's not worth it. So I spent the money on it, so I'm gonna use it. But I'm not telling you to purchase it. I'm not recommending a friend of mine to spend any of their money on this. So that's that. Number 44. I know, it's shocking. This is the Natasha Denona Bloom palette. As you know, Natasha Denona is my favorite eyeshadow brand, really, one of my all-time favorite brands. But the longer I've had this palette, the less that I've liked it. I think in my review I said, you know what, it's fine, it's Natasha Denona quality, but the longer that I've had this, the less I've wanted to use it, the less inspired I felt about this palette. I feel like so many of the looks I create with this palette are pretty much the same for them having so many different colors in here. The quality is a little bit more stiff than normal. It's not crazy off, but it's just not Natasha's best work. I haven't loved this palette. Every time I look at it, I just feel like, I really don't want to use it. And to me, that warrants ranking it where I'm ranking it. And of course, let's talk value here. Natasha Denona is very expensive. My expectations of the brands are very, very high. And she didn't do it with this one. There's a couple dud shades in this as well. I just don't love this one. I expected better, and this is where it has fallen. So number 44, unfortunately, goes to Natasha Denona Bloom. Number 43, honestly, the Hung Van Gogh Beauty line, when it comes to his color shades, like I said, they are the ones that are more inconsistent. So this one I got gorgeous looks with. I love purples, of course. But I feel like, again, very redundant shades. A lot of them pulled very similarly on the eyelid, and then some of the formulas here were very, very dry. So even though the looks that I got were gorgeous, I just don't really like the quality of this one that much. And again, you can make it work. We're at the point now, 2025, you can make any eyeshadow palette work. They really do a good job, these labs, but I just wouldn't recommend it. I think that Hung Van Gogh has much better color options in his range, and this one for me was a bit of a dud. I just need more varying tones here. With there only being 8 shades, each shade has to have some value to it, and with them doing a similar function on my eyelid, that lowers the value of this. 42. I wonder if she was trying this out, but as you know, the Lightwork palette from Danessa Myricks has these interchangeable individual shades, these little 6 pans that you can put into the big one, which of course, you know, expect to see the bigger palette later on. I'm literally wearing it. But she did launch a little 6-panner, which I think is fabulous. I think she should continue to do this. But this one launched around Pride Month, I believe. This is the Pastel Dream palette. I mean, it's the same good Danessa Myricks formula, just not really my kind of color story. Kind of uninspiring for me. I never really reached for this. If you do really like it, you can pop this this into your bigger Freedom Lightwork palettes, which is really cool. So I'd love to see her come up with more little color stories, maybe some all matte options here, because I do think the range could use some more matte options. This is fine, but I didn't really use it that much. Didn't really love the colors in here, so that's why this is falling where it's falling. But I don't really have anything bad to say about it. 41 is a newer-ish palette to my collection. I splurged, and I got the Olive Smoke Quad from Tom Ford. Again, another time where I was like, you know what, it's been a while since I've purchased Tom Ford quads. I feel like either they're really, really great or they're just not worth it at all. And I thought that this would be a formula that I loved, and it is gorgeous. I mean, these speak to me as a fall tone. This does not fall short of a color story that I love, and I think there's value in a cute little quad as well. But I noticed these shadows fade on my eyelid. They just lose the opacity that I initially get when I apply it, which I think is very, very odd. And for the price point, I can't be having those issues. So for some odd reason, this fades so quickly on me that I cannot recommend it, even though it's like literally so gorgeous. Even swatching it, I'm like, oh, you're gorgeous, but it doesn't have the wear. And I'm not somebody who struggles with that. I do not have oily eyelids. My eyelids aren't as hooded as they used to be, so there's not much transferring to happen anymore. So why you fading when you are like $90? You know? Number 40, I'm so sorry, Hung Van Gogh. I feel like it's just the colored eyeshadows. I just don't love them. This is the Brilliant Blue eyeshadow palette, which first of all, this color story you know is not going to be for me. This is something I'm very uncomfortable with. I think this one, compared to the previous ones, has a much better layout, varying depths, that kind of situation. You can get a lot more looks with this palette. So you know what? If you are into blues, you might actually like this palette a lot more. Like, this could rank a lot higher. This is where my own personal color story preferences come in, because I don't really have anything bad to say about this palette. It's just very, very blue, which is unfair to this palette and the blue lovers out there. This one is not bad at all, but I look at this and I feel scared. So that's why this is ranking where it's ranking. 39, this is a palette that I reviewed fairly recently from Odin's Eye. This is the Ice Crystal palette, and it's a fine Odin's Eye palette, but it is not their best work. They've launched much better palettes this year. This one, there are some of that formula that I don't love from Odin's Eye, but that's just a personal preference. And I did like this a lot more when I actually ended up putting it on my eyes, because it's very pastel. It's kind of a random color story. Screams more of like a spring palette to me, even though it was a winter palette launch. But surprisingly, I was able to get a lot of different looks with this. I was able to get looks that I liked. So I ended up liking this better than I thought I would. But it still is just not my favorite curation from Odin's Eye. It's a good palette. I mean, from this point on, we're talking palettes that I like, but I don't love how big this palette is. I don't like these random spaces. I'm not thinking I want to use this palette today ever. I'm not reaching for this palette. When I use this palette, it is due to work obligations, review obligations, and a palette shouldn't rank very high if I feel obligated to use it. So this didn't end up being my favorite launch for them. It's not bad quality by any means, but I just don't love this color story, and it's not my favorite formulas in here either, but it's not bad. Forgive me, Hung. 38 is the Outstanding Orange palette from them, and this one, it's just a lot of orange on the same kind of depth level here, which is not my favorite kind of color story. The formula in here I feel is a lot creamier than some of the other palettes that I've mentioned from the brand, so you might like this one. If you like really fiery, orangey kind of colors, this may be up your alley. It's just personally not mine. I haven't felt really inspired to reach for this palette. It is a fine palette. Don't really have anything bad to say. I just don't really like the colors in here, and I don't like, I don't know, don't you feel like they're kind of in the same depth range as well? This is where it fell. 37 and 36, I'm kind of counting as one in the same. They kind of are a duo if you ask me. So these are the Hollywood Instant in a Look palettes from Charlotte Tilbury, and I actually liked these a lot as a face palette. So this isn't just eyes. As you can see, we have face colors all along the bottom here, but I am judging these as eyeshadow palettes. I think they function better as all-in-one palettes, which is their intention. but there are 3 eyeshadow specific shades in here, and then you can kind of work with the face powders as eyeshadow. So that's kind of how I'm viewing these. So as a whole, you know, these face palettes aren't her best work either, but they are palettes that I end up using a lot actually because they're just so functional. So I have ranked at 37 the Pretty Glowing Beauty one just because you get less options. If I am using this palette, it's for the whole look, the whole vibe, which is absolutely gorgeous. But as an eyeshadow palette, it is lacking. I'm not reaching for this palette just to use it for the eyes. The glittery shade, I feel like, has a little bit of hard pan. You can get a pretty simple look with it, but you don't have too much options with it. And then I ranked at 36 the Dreamy Bronze Beauty. So this one I ranked higher because as an eyeshadow palette, you can get more with this because the bronzer is deeper. You get some more contrast. You have a more deep smoky shade. You still do have those glitter shades that get a little hard panned. They're still very pretty on the eyelid. I mean, these are perfect for travel, for easy all-in-one looks. But as eyeshadow palettes alone, that's not the reason that I'm reaching for these. I'm going to reach for a regular eyeshadow palette, but I do like the palettes a lot. And when I do wear these, I do like the looks that I get. But the strength in here are not the eyeshadows. So let's say that. Number 35 is another one from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Beautifying Eye Trends in Digital Lilac. Overall, I was not a huge fan of this launch from Charlotte Tilbury. She launched multitudes of shades here. The quality is fine. The packaging is meh. I mean, I like the clear top, but it's just different. I feel like some of the matte shades can be a little bit more difficult to work out. Not that you can't. If you're experienced with eyeshadow, you're going to have no issues with these palettes. But But I know Charlotte Tilbury can create really buttery, easy to use eyeshadows, and these were a notch down in quality. So my expectations for the brand for their eyeshadows was way up here, and I feel like this year with eyeshadows, they met me down here. So there has definitely been a change. They are not the same creamy, luxurious formulation. So that is why this is ranking at 35. You can get pretty looks with this. I like the colors in here. I think it's a pretty palette. But it's not the same. It's not as good quality. It feels cheap, but they're making you pay. It's still a good amount, you know. So that is just something to keep in mind. You can get gorgeous looks with this, but why go for this when there are brands that are bringing it when it comes to eyeshadows? You know what I mean? So that's where this one fell. Number 34 is also another one from Odin's Eye from their Alba collection that they did. You'll see a few of these running throughout today's video. This one is the Summer palette. I don't have anything bad to say about this one. It's just too blue for me. You know how I feel about blues. I really hate blues. But honestly, it's a very well curated blue palette. You even have some neutral options, which I think are important when it comes to making a blue palette more versatile. It has some grungy tones. I think honestly, it's a very good blue palette. So this one is strictly ranking because I don't love the color story. And that's that. I mean, guys, we're getting to the point now where I'm not going to give us in-depth reviews because all of these palettes from this point on, like, they're fine. They're good palettes. This is just where they fell, how inspired I felt by them, how often I used them, how I feel about the quality. So Summer Alba from Odin's Eye fell at 34. So next up at 33, we have yet another Hung Van Gogh palette, but this one is, I think, by far his best color palette. This is the Generous Green and Yellow, and I think why I like it a lot more is because you can get more variety in looks with this. I love the pop of yellow here. I love that there's a very deep tone here. A little difficult to work with, but not too bad at all. I think if you're a very beginner, this is a little bit too challenging, but other than that, if you can blend an eyeshadow, you'll be fine with this one. His best color palette for sure, quality wise. So yeah, that's where it fell, but she's very green. That's for certain. So number 32 is from Natasha Denona, and this is a good palette. This is the Mini Gloom palette. I feel like this one launched we talked about it, and then everybody, including myself, kind of forgot about it. It is a fun, grungy color story. For some reason, I didn't reach for it that much. I really liked this shade right here. It's kind of taupey all across the eyelid, but I'll be honest, it wasn't a palette that I reached for a lot. However, I do really enjoy the quality of this, and I do think the color story is very, very fun and pretty unique. I mean, it's not anything crazy unique, but for what I've been enjoying, this is a unique color story. So I really, really like this one. It's fun, and I love her little minis. So I think they did a good job with this one. Next up at 31, I have the Odin's Eye Spring Alva palette. So it's that same good Odin's Eye quality. I like the color story. It's very spring vibes, of course, based on the name. You have to kind of like these tones in order to enjoy this. Sometimes I feel like the Odin's Eye color stories can be a bit random, but sometimes that randomness allows you to get more out of the palette. You can get a little creative, get those juices sparked, and you can get more variety than you think. And that's how I feel about this palette, because when I first look at it, I'm not as into it, but I've been able to get some very pretty spring kind of style looks that I like with this, as well as there's some warm tones, some purple tones, some blue tones. So it is a really great color story in terms of versatility across the board if you enjoy these colors. So this one is a good one. Moving into the 30s here, I have one of the multitude of Viseart launches this year. This is the Midsummer Lumiere palette. This one didn't move me like some of the other ones that they've launched this year. Viseart does create some of my favorite color stories. This one is very dupable within their own range. You still get good Viseart quality, but you're not getting best Viseart quality with this. The standards are so high that the quality of this is still very nice. But for me, this is an uninspiring palette when it comes to Viseart, because I already have these tones 1,000 times over from Viseart, and they definitely had a lot better things up their sleeve this year, so that's why this is 30, but it's still a very good palette because it's Viseart. Number 29, I know some people were fighting me about this, but this is just my opinion. It's not my favorite launch from Pat McGrath. It is their Gilded Nirvana Mega Eyeshadow palette that she launched for the holidays this year. It's a good palette for me. It's not a great palette. I do find some of the shades to be really, really nice quality, and then I find others to be of the quality that I don't particularly enjoy from Pat McGrath, where I just feel like it doesn't adhere to the eyelid. It really needs worked in. And for that inconsistency level for Pat McGrath, I just can't approve of that. I think the color story is really fun with these jewel tones, but this is not a palette that I'm reaching for to create an entire look. Pretty much every time I've used this, I felt a desire to reach into a different palette. This is kind of like a one and done, two and done kind of palette with a little bit of a bronzer in the crease kind of thing. I can't get, despite there being 12 different shades, I can't do a lot with a lot of the shades on my eyelids. This is a palette that is best used minimally, so 1 to 2 shades on the eyelid really, without it getting too mushy or having issues with some of the shadows getting muddy or kind of over blending and getting some powder on your face. It's just not the best work that I know Pat McGrath can do. Don't get me wrong, still is a gorgeous palette. You have these shades that are just undeniably stunning, so I've enjoyed the looks that I've gotten from it, but from a review standpoint, it's not impeccable quality for Pat McGrath. Moving in at number 28, I have the new Makeup by Mario palette, the Ethereal Eyes Nature palette. This one didn't do it for me this year, though I do want to give the disclaimer that it is still very good quality. It's just not as good quality as years past for what I'm looking for. So the mattes, stunning. I love the mattes in here, and I love the overall color story. This is totally my vibe, but the shimmer shades have lost their luster for a palette that is quite literally named Ethereal. They don't give Ethereal this year. You can see my original review. I still stand by the fact this formula is different. These are more lackluster. Some people like that more subdued look. I personally enjoyed the original formula, which is a little bit more sparkly. So for me, that was a downgrade. For you, you might enjoy that wearability aspect, because other than that, I really think the quality of the mattes are fantastic, and I really love the color story here, but I just can't get over the lackluster shimmers in here. And because they're so lackluster, there's only a handful, but they all look very, very similar on the eyelid as well, which kind of lessens that value. So that's why, even though it's not a low ranking palette, it's also not high ranking, because one of these in years past was like my #1 favorite palette of the year. So that is a big drop off for this. Number 27, even listen, I just really like the color story here. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Beautifying Eye Trends palette in Super Neutral. Here's the thing, I mentioned it earlier with the Digital Lilac one. Not the best quality from Charlotte Tilbury. I noticed with some of the dark mattes here that they can stick a little bit and be a little tricky to blend. However, I used this all the time because these were my tones this year. So that's where we had to kind of find the balance. So this is where it's ranking. I don't necessarily recommend you purchase this one. There's lots of other fantastic neutral style palettes that launched this year that are better than this one, but I would be a liar if I didn't admit to you. I did use this a lot. Like a lot. Number 26, I have it's a gag palette. I believe the real name is the Grounded palette, but mine says the Tones of Turd. But it is a legit palette from Glaminatrix Cosmetics, who I think creates some of the most gorgeous formulas and color stories that tend to be right up my alley. But yeah, the Grounded palette has a lot more appropriate names. I have the funny one. But anyways, it's just got these murky greens and browns and earthy tones here, which, you know what, I didn't use as much as I thought I was going to, but the quality of this is so good, and their shimmers are so rich and so beautiful on the eyelids. Honestly, I wish I had reached for this more this fall. I didn't end up reaching for this as much as I thought I would, but I know I wanted to rank it where I ranked it because I know how good it is. I know, one, from the uses that I did have with this, but also my use with Glaminatrix Cosmetics. Super high quality palette, beautiful colors. If you love those murky greens, I think you'll really enjoy this one. Number 25 was a limited edition holiday palette, and it really shocked me. It's one of one here. It is the only Lancome palette that I have that I'm talking about. This is the Adventurous palette. It is only a 5-pan palette intended also for use on the face, but I have to say it is gorgeous. It's very high quality. It's closer to what you tend to get with luxury eyeshadows, where it's not going to be wham bam pigment. All of these really are more of a satin finish as opposed to matte, but they blend out with ease. They kind of blend out themselves. That's the thing that I look for when it comes to luxury quality. The majority of the shades that I've used on the eyes were these three right here, but you can also put a little blush in the crease and it's very pretty for very, very simple looks. But I've been very impressed with the quality of this. It really shocked me, and I think the tones are gorgeous. This is not a must-have, but it definitely, for being a limited edition palette, is a nice treat to yourself. Especially, I think that the packaging is adorable. I know this is not going to be a long-term favorite of mine, but in the time that I've had it, I have really enjoyed it. I can't deny the quality. I've reached for it over other palettes because I think it's phenomenal. Number 24 is a little bit of a shocker for me. It doesn't have the best packaging. It doesn't have the best quality, but I love the colors and I've used it all the time. And sometimes it just be like that, I guess, because this is the Urban Decay Naked Shaped palette. This is their warmer one. They also have a cooler toned one. I mean, this is literally cheap plastic packaging, and the quality itself, it's not amazing by any means. It's just like average eyeshadow quality, so it's gonna blend. It's going to be easy to apply with your finger. I'm talking about the shimmers, but it's not anything revolutionary. But that said, I mean, this is a naked palette. These are supposed to be very basic, useful shades. So because of that, I'll admit, I've reached for this a lot. I don't particularly favor the cream shadows, but for days, which there's been so many days that I've wanted boring, non-colorful eyeshadow looks where I just wanted a simple shimmer on the lid, maybe a mid-tone crease shade, a deep outer corner shade. This had it, so I reached for it a lot, and it's average quality, but it gets the job done. So it's one of those things where I don't know, I used it a lot, even though there really isn't anything special about it. This is a palette where if my friend wanted it, or you wanted it, buy it at like 50% off. Definitely don't pay full price for this, but you probably will end up using it, honestly. 23 is from Natasha Denona, the Eye Sculpt Texture and Tone. This one is the soft one, so I'm also going to mention that 22 is the same Eye Sculpt Texture and Tone, but dramatic. I kind of view these as a pair, but I do like the dramatic better. I guess I just like having a little bit more depth in my looks. I mean, these are great palettes to have in your arsenal. They have the most basic shades, but honestly, over time, what I've been disappointed by with these palettes is I use these, but I still feel like I need shades from other palettes. I know she intended for lighter complexions, for deeper complexions, but you know, if you have a light skin tone, first of all, this has like no shimmers. I want other shades. And then if you have a deeper complexion, you're definitely going to want some lighter shades as well. That is the point of makeup, with highlights and shadows. So these functionally, they weren't as easy as I thought they were going to be. When I use one, I still desire having to use the other one because I need different depths here. So it's interesting. I mean, it's good Natasha Denona quality, don't get me wrong. And as a basic, boring gal, I love the concept and the idea of these. But execution-wise, I shouldn't, in a palette that has so many shades, desire using other palettes with this. So that's why it's not a top runner. But it still is Natasha Denona, so I'm a little biased, and it still is really, really good. 21, I honestly was expecting this to be one of the lowest ranking palettes this year, and boy was I wrong. This is from Chantecaille. This is the Nymph Eye Trio. This, I believe, was their spring collection drop. And I didn't expect this to be on the lower ranking end because I didn't think the quality would be there. It just looked really uninspiring to me. I thought it would have just been a palette where it's fine, it's nice, but it's super duper expensive, so why would I recommend it? Unfortunately, this palette has some of the most beautiful one and done eyeshadows ever. So all this spring, I would put like a bronzer in my crease and use one of these all over, and I had the most ethereal, glowing eyelids, and I ate it up. I loved this little trio here. Love is in the air. I haven't used it as much lately because I've been focusing on all the newer launches that have come out in the second half of the year, but especially this sparkly shade right here, the one and done definition of what I'm looking for is here in terms of like a glowy ethereal look. There's a couple different, like, you know, sometimes with one and done you want it to look like you have depth and like a glow. These are mostly just glow shades all over, but with a little bit of bronzer in the crease. They're stunning and they're very high quality. So like, again, it's Chantecaille. You know my stance on them as a brand. They're just very, very, very pricey. I would save it for like Black Friday to purchase anything from the brand. But they, I really like this. As it normally goes with Chantecaille, I'm like, they got me again. Really good. Okay, we're moving into the 20s now. This, I think, is such a fun winter palette. This is from Nomad. Actually, it's the only Nomad palette that I tried this year. I know they launched a lot of beautiful ones. I don't know why I didn't get to so many of them, but this is the one that I did, and I have them all saved. I do want to eventually get to them if I can, but this is the Opera Ski palette, and I really have loved their packaging and their themes this year, so it is unfortunate that I didn't get to give them the attention that they deserved. I feel like over the years, the formula has improved because I did used to have some trouble in the beginning. But how fun is this color story? I will admit, it's a little out of the comfort zone for me, but I can appreciate a palette that does leave me feeling inspired and wanting to play a little bit with more color, and that's how this one made me feel, especially with these fun winter vibes here. I even was playing with some of the blues. That's how you know it's good. Trying to get myself out of the my comfort zone, but I love how it's laid out here, where we have more of a pinky purpley vibe, a green vibe, and then a blue vibe, and if you go up it becomes a little bit more berry purple. But I don't know, it's really good, easy to use quality with colors that can be a little bit more difficult to formulate, more difficult to work out. And with the different shimmer shades that they put in here, it all makes sense. Everything has a purpose, from the light to the deep. So it's been really easy to navigate as far as creating looks. And even though it has colors that aren't necessarily always within my comfort zone, the way that they place the shades and the shades that they picked made it much more easy to navigate. So I think this one was super duper good from Nomad. So ranking that one at 20. All right, coming in at 19, you'll see a few of these guys coming up here. Laminatrix Cosmetics. This is their Exquisite Eyes Little 6-Pan palette. The thing is, sometimes when these palettes are narrowed down, even though I love a big palette, sometimes it gets easier to use, or a lot of times it gets easier to use with a smaller amount of shades, especially for colors that are more intimidating to me. So let's just set the record straight here with Laminatrix. Love their quality to no ends. They have the prettiest shimmery, glimmery shadows, and then the mattes are quite easy to blend as well. But for me, their standouts are their shimmery shades. And even though this palette screams uncomfortable for me, it doesn't even matter because that's how beautiful these shades are. So I've still had a lot of fun with this. I've created some really crazy fun looks that I get to wear on camera and that you guys love. It really is gorgeous on camera. So this one ranks at 19 because the quality is just so good, and then how they've laid these out, it just makes creating looks like this much less intimidating and very easy because of the high quality product. Number 18, we have the Mothership palette that came out for first time in 2 years. We had all been waiting, and it's so good because it's a Mothership palette, but it also is like, it should be ranked number 1. But as you can see, it's not. It's not the best work, but we know this. We know Pat McGrath is no longer what it used to be when the brand first came out, but I feel like an old lady and I am still hanging on to hope, okay? So this is their Petalmorphosis Mothership palette. Purple is my favorite color. I love lavender, so I had to get the lavender packaging, but just like note, the black packaging is much more aesthetically pleasing and it flatters these colors a lot more. I think overall it makes the color story much more inspiring when it comes to putting the makeup on. Anyways, it's a Mothership palette, so I love it. It has a lot of great things to offer that a lot of Mothership palettes do, but it also is missing the OG Blitz Astro shade, which, like, rest in peace. Seriously, I'm like really hurt over that, but it still has some really great Pat McGrath formulas. It's just missing a couple of the dang Blitz Astrals, and I can get very pretty looks with this, but also I have felt limited at the same time. It's not my favorite Mothership palette, and when I first saw it online, I thought it was going to be a favorite, maybe not number 1, but I fell in love with it at first sight, and I thought it was a little bit more fun. Finally, no more roses, and I didn't even end up loving it, so I guess she just can't please me. But if she had put some Blitz Astral shades in here, then we'd be talking. Moving on. I was definitely disappointed in that, if I'm being honest. But it's still Pat McGrath, so still kind of really good, you know? Okay, number 17. We have another Odin's Eye palette. You know I love my Odin's Eye. This is their Autumn Alva palette. So for me, browns are neutrals. Then when we get to the colors, I consider purple a neutral as well. Then green is close behind. Like, purples and greens, I love making those wearable. So this autumn palette incorporates some beautiful green tones as well as some icy shades. Again, they do some weird color combos that when I look at them, I'm like, But then when I actually get to putting them on my eyes, I actually like the different looks that I can get. And that's how I feel about this. There's some random shades in here, but they just work. Sometimes they just allow me to completely change up what I'm able to do with it. And it's that great Odin's Eye formula. There's not too many mushy shades in here that I don't like. And I think we have some good depths. This is very inspiring for me. So I really like this color story. So that's where this one is falling at number 17. The redemption arc is beginning at number 16 with Hung Van Gogh. And we're getting into the more neutral palettes, which for some reason are creamier. They're just better. So this is his composed cool color story, which is technically a neutral, right? But not brown neutral, which is what I like more for everyday. But anyways, this is a great grayscale palette. Definitely not one I'm reaching for very often because I don't really wear completely gray eyeshadow, but maybe I should start. I saw somebody wearing gray eyeshadow the other day all over their eyelid and I thought it looked fantastic, and so now I'm inspired to maybe pull this one out. But I think this one is so well curated with the white all the way to the black. We have some satin shades here, which I think are great in this type of color story. So I really like this one. And there's not a lot of brands that will have the balls, you know, to create a color story like this. So excited to see it. Number 15, we have another one of the Glaminatrix palettes. This one is the Entrancing Eyes. It's purple, so you know I'm instantly much more attracted to it. I've often used this enticing shade as an eyeliner throughout the year, and I've also loved just picking my dirty little fingers, especially in these two shades, all over the eyelid for a really simple, sparkling, twinkling eye. I haven't used the shade Splendid much, but these four shades have been a little bit more of what I've been reaching for within my comfort zone. But again, same great quality, same gorgeous shimmering shades that just are 10 out of 10 on the quality scale. And because I tend to like purples, I reach for this one a lot because I know I can trust Glaminatrix. Okay, 14, we have the Winter Alva palette from Odin's Eye. So this was their 4 palette series. I think I've talked about all 4 now at this point. Now, the winter palette's my favorite because no one does a purple eyeshadow quite like Odin's Eye. I just feel like their quality is there when it comes to purple, and the color stories that they create are right within my wheelhouse. They'll do more lavenders, which a lot of brands suck at, honestly, and Odin's Eye is so good at that. And so that's what this is for me. It also has blue, but not too blue, so it's within my comfort zone. So this one is really fun to play with around the winter time, but you can even get a lot of fun spring inspired looks with this as well. Not too many funky formulas in here for me. So this is kind of the color story that I tend to go for when it comes to Odin's Eye. So when they launched this one, I knew instantly I was going to enjoy it, and no surprise, I do. I love their mattes. I think they're so beautiful and pigmented, and then sometimes they have like a shimmer formula that I love, but they also have a shimmer formula that I really don't love. So it can be hit or miss, but when they hit, you know. But anyways, this is one of my favorite palettes that they launched this year. So number 13, when I look at this palette, I feel so meh about it, but first half of the year, I used it all of the time. Okay, so this is from Sydney Grace. This is their Eastern Fall palette, and Sydney Grace has such good quality. Their shimmers are creamy, mess-free, no fuss, no frills, no extra unnecessary glitters or fillers. And then their mattes, super pigmented, very easy to use. Just overall a solid formula. And so when I look at this palette, I don't necessarily love the color story, but when it was sitting beside me all of the first half of the year, it has shades that I use all of the time. Like this quad right here, and then I was also using this shade all of the time, and I was also using this shade all of the time, and I mean, talk about reliable quality. So even the palette as a whole, like, I don't love it. I don't even love looking at it, but I used it all the time, and the quality was so good. I mean, that's to be expected from Sydney Grace. They create quality eyeshadows. So give me some neutrals and give it to me in Sydney Grace's formula. I'm all over it. All right, number 12 is from Glaminatrix. This one is from that collection, the Elegant Eyes, and yeah, it's the neutral one, so you know that's going to be my favorite of the collection here. I use Divine all the time as eyeliner. I actually don't use this crease shade quite as much. I think it's a little too warm sometimes, but that's okay. And then when I want a shimmery lid that's really simple, we have these options here. Same sentiments. If you like glittery, sparkly shades, you'll really love this one. So this one was my favorite color story of these guys and ended up being the most used of these guys for the year. And these I would use all the time off camera, even like the matte shades I would reach for whenever I was doing my eyeshadow. Like sometimes I would just reach for a crease shade, lid shade, or eyeliner. So I was like picking and choosing one shade from these palettes all of the time. Okay, ColourPop had a really good year this year. I've only tried 2 palettes from them, and them being top ranking palettes was not on my bingo card, but here we are. Coming in at number 11 is the Grinch palette that they did with ColourPop. This is how the Grinch stole Christmas. And don't get me wrong, like Sydney Grace eyeshadow quality makes this look like powder, but it doesn't. The quality is so good on this. It's ColourPop, honestly. It's not as good as like Sydney Grace is what I'm trying to say, but it works just fine. It's kind of like that Urban Decay quality where, you know, it's not changing the game, but I didn't pay for it to change the game, and it gets the job done. Whatever you want done, you can do with that. And I love this palette. I love this color story. It is inspiring to me. I have gotten so many looks that I love with this. I love the variety of looks. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous holiday palette, but I think it also carries very well into the springtime. These pops of greens have been so fun. I've used and talked about this palette a lot lately, so I'm not going to go too much into detail, but I am still loving this palette. And it might be ranking so high because it's still fresh on my brain, like how bewildered I am that this is so amazing. But whatever, this is where it's falling because every time I use this palette, I love the looks that I get. Every single time. And I've been able to get looks that look very different, and I'm still inspired to use this palette. So ColourPop, you did your thing. ColourPop can be hit or miss when it comes to quality, but the last two that I've tried have been incredible, and the color stories have also been incredible. So yeah, 11, The Grinch from ColourPop. Didn't see it coming either. Ooh, we're down to the final 10, but you guys are gonna hate me. I do this every year. The top 10 is going to be in a separate video uploaded next. You didn't think I was going to give it to you all at once, okay? I want to have a lot of time to dive deep into those top 10. So the next video, expect to begin the top 10 rankings of the best palettes of 2025. But we got a good start here. We started at 47. Worked our way down to 10. As always, these are just my opinions. Let me know your thoughts of these eyeshadow palettes if you've tried them down below. Stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and I will get those top 10 video to you very, very soon. And all of the palettes that I talked about today will be listed down below, alphabetical order via brand, because I didn't want to give it away to you all at once. But whew, okay, we did it. We ranked all of these babies. I feel satisfied. So, and I don't think when I was going through anything felt misplaced. So, anyways, remember, as always, these are just my opinions, and eyeshadow palettes nowadays, they're all really, really good. So there really isn't necessarily any bad eyeshadow palettes out there except for that Dior. The Dior was bad. But other than that, every palette I liked this year. What can I say? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this rankings and found it helpful. Thank you so much for tuning into my videos this year as we close up with all of these roundups, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys, have a good one.
It's delicious.